it was just Groundhog Day a couple of days ago, and Groundhog Day is one of my favorite movies. And like to the point where like somebody asked me once if you could just watch one movie like again and again for the rest of your life, like what movie would you choose? And I was like Groundhog Day. And like I wasn't trying to be meta or anything, even though it sort of is. It's just that it's like it's so good, and it's also like it has such depth to it. It's so relevant for psychological processes, for growth, for treatment of social anxiety, even spiritually, it's really relevant. For me, what like really, jumps out is the learning process, and the sort of how he attempts to deal with things initially, and then the growth that he has over time. Like this is the Bill Murray character, how he manages to grow. He tries different kind of methods, and he is sort of compelled eventually into growth, and seeing like what happens when he tries to solve it one way, by controlling outcomes, versus what happens when he tries to change it another way, which is through letting go of that and focusing on development. I think there's like multiple things going on here. Like there's multiple ways this relates to social anxiety and the treatment of social anxiety. My experience, my read of his character early on is that he does not think he is good enough, right? His self-concept, his self-esteem is really negative. Like his whole energy is very negative, because there's just this idea of he is just not good enough, and it comes, and he tries to. There's a sense of that, like I'm not good enough, and I'm putting up this front to cover over that, and it comes out as sarcasm, as sort of a coping method, keep people away, like sarcasm, and then humor, like it's a negative humor, and it's pretty compellingly, like you notice in this whole beginning of the movie that he's there's no vulnerability there, right? There's no vulnerability, there's no openness. You're not seeing him, you're just seeing these defenses, the sarcasm, the humor, like the kind of this like selfishness, which I read as being underneath that, thinks he's not good enough, and so it's not safe to show his actual self, to be vulnerable, and like this clearly applies with social anxiety, because the core of it, right, is a shame, and the core of it is shame and protection, right? So the core of it is, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I'm good enough to be loved and accepted. And so I am certainly not going to risk showing myself, being vulnerable, being authentic, because if I do, people are going to see all my flaws and attack me, reject me. So he's very rejecting and pushing people away to begin with. And then as he sort of goes through this process across the movie, the circumstances that happen, enough beating his head against against the wall, he uses all this sort of power and knowledge to, he never shows himself. He's trickery, fakery, manipulation. He doesn't say anything. Like, he has his questions of like, oh, she might ask him, Andy McDowell's character will ask him, oh, what do you think about this? And he'll come up with he'll just figure out what she wants to hear and tell her that. So it's inauthentic, it's fake, and it's protected. And again, the underlying assumption, right, is if I show my true self, she won't be into me. And then, like, there comes this period in the movie, which is kind of this breakthrough moment where he's tried all that, it hasn't worked. Like, he's tried to like be better and better and better with all his trickery and fakery and more and more defenses, and he still feels disconnected and alone and unloved. And he finally like risks showing this authenticity. Obviously, desiring to connect. It's coming from this place of wanting to connect, but the ways he's going about doing it are really protected. Like really, it's not showing vulnerability, not showing the true self. It's trying to like come up with ways of seeming a way that she will like. It doesn't work. It works a little bit, but it doesn't really work. And he doesn't grow. He doesn't feel any better about himself. It's not, and for social anxiety, right? That's a lot of what we're working with, is that underlying belief of not good enough, and then putting up all those protections so that people are not seeing it, which cuts off the ability to connect. And then he has that moment, right, where nothing works, so he just gives up. He's like, I've been trying so hard to figure out all these tricks and techniques and ways of getting connection and love and approval, while not showing that the true self. It just doesn't work. It fails again and again. It's a funny moment where he gets slapped, and he gets slapped again and again and again. He keeps trying, keeps getting slapped. And then he just gives up. And he's like, he actually drops the facade for the first time. He drops the armor, drops the protection, and he tells her what's actually going on. Saying, I'm reliving this day again and again and again. And I know all these things, and nothing I do has an impact. And he actually, he's open, lets her in, and then sort of to his surprise, they have this actual genuine connection. She doesn't fully believe him, but all of a sudden she's hanging around him. She wants to chat. They get to know each other more, like in an actual open way, It comes down from, and that's where the change happens, right? That's where the shift in the movie for his character happens. He drops it, and she communicates, she shows, I think, back to him, oh, well, you're open. I'm being open in response. I like that you're open and aware and vulnerable. And I think it's reinforcing for him. And there's this moment, kind of right at the end of that day, where she says, he says, it's the same day again and again. It's pointless. It's worthless. And her response is, oh, I would love to have all that time. Think of all the things that you could do with that time. And that's kind of how the day ends. And there's a shift from there, the shift he now then, that next kind of phase of the movie is him shifting how he's lived, right? He's shifted from being self-focused to being more externally focused and seeing opportunity and potential. And that is another thing that happens with social anxiety, right? Is if you the putting up the protections or trying to control, it can stop just the organic nature of connection, which is not really controllable. You can't map it all out, right? You are just responding in the moment to the natural things that come up to ask or to say, the natural opinions, responses that if they're left to flow, we have genuine connection. Whereas if we try to force it and control it, it can start to become a little stilted. That self-critical voice is there for a reason. The self-critical part of you is trying to help based on the experiences that it's had growing up. It's not there trying to be mean. It's not there trying to crush you. It thinks it's helping. It's a part of you that you learn to do this as a way to try to help. It just isn't in the modern world, the present day. In that last kind of part of the movie, that, once he's broken through from being inauthentic to being sort of vulnerable and authentic, there's this shift. He went from being his central flaw is being selfish, right? Even though if we're being compassionate about it, we probably know that selfishness comes from an internal sense of shame. He even mentions at some point, she's like, oh, something, I think there was some comment about him thinking he's too good for everyone. And then he responds by saying, no, I hate myself. That's a shame. And all the things he's doing are these protections, the backfire. And then he's vulnerable. And there's this shift from being focused on himself the need to get what he needs and survive. There's this shift that he makes after that moment where he is vulnerable, authentic, and then it's accepted and appreciated, which, by the way, that is the core of everything we're trying to do in treatment, and all of us are trying to do in trying to live and grow. Like that's our core desire, is to be vulnerable, authentic, show ourselves, and have it be accepted and loved despite our flaws. He had that moment. I think it's really powerful. And after that, there's a shift. And you think about what he focuses on after that. He goes around basically saving everyone's life, giving people the things that they need. He starts to become, like, he goes from selfish to selfless. Like, he's externalizing and conveying like warmth to people, which people need. He's saving their lives. He's being social. He's being caring. He's giving money. He's giving food. He's just like he's investing in other people. He's warm. He's curious. He's helpful. All three of those things, by the way, are really potent ways of reducing social anxiety. Just helping other people is alone a way of reducing social anxiety. Being warm and trying to make other people feel good, it actually reduces our own anxiety. And same with curiosity. If we focus on ourselves and how people are thinking about us, what do they think of me, our anxiety goes up. If we externalize our curiosity onto the other person, wondering how they're doing, then our anxiety comes down. So that's a very potent, like, anti-social anxiety shift, from focusing on the self to focusing on others.